The steam enveloped me as I stood under the warm cascade of water, each droplet washing away the remnants of my past relationship with Mark. It was a strange mix of sadness and relief that coursed through me. I had spent the last few months feeling like I was drowning in a sea of expectations and disappointments, and now, standing here, I felt a sense of liberation. My fingers slid through my wet hair, pulling it back as I closed my eyes and let the water cleanse my thoughts. Maybe this is what I needed. I whispered to myself, the sound swallowed by the sounds of rushing water. The breakup had been messy, but in the end, I realized that I deserved more than what he could offer. I picked up the shampoo and squeezed a generous amount into my palm, lathering it into my hair while reflecting on the moments that led to our split. He was never really there for me, I murmured, almost trying to convince myself. Suddenly, I heard the door swing open, and my heart raced. "Mia, you in there?" The voice was unmistakably Jake's, my older brother. I froze, the reality of my nakedness hitting me like a cold wave. "Jake, what are you doing?" I shouted, my voice a mix of surprise and panic. I could hear the towel he was holding drop to the floor, and a moment of silence enveloped us both. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," he stammered, his cheeks reddening as he turned on his heel, slamming the door shut behind him. I stood there, heart pounding, the sudden embarrassment making my skin feel hot. "Seriously, knock next time," I called out, half laughing, half annoyed as I wrapped my arms around myself. "Right, sorry, I'll, wait outside." His voice was muffled, but I could hear the cringe in it. I leaned against the cool tile, trying to regain my composure, but the awkwardness hung thick in the air. After a moment, I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. Only Jake would barge in like that, I muttered, shaking my head. I rinsed the shampoo from my hair and turned off the shower, stepping out to grab a towel. As I dried off, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror, my cheeks still flushed from the unexpected encounter. I wrapped the towel around myself and opened the bathroom door, ready to confront my brother about his lack of boundaries. But when I stepped into the hallway, Jake was leaning against the wall, his gaze fixed on the floor. The moment I stepped out, he looked up and our eyes locked. A charged silence filled the space between us. "Hey, I really didn't mean to," he started, but I held up my hand, cutting him off. "Let's just forget it happened, okay?" I said, trying to sound lighthearted, but the intensity of his gaze made it hard to keep my tone casual. "Right, totally," he replied, scratching the back of his neck, a nervous habit of his. I thought you were done. I didn't mean to walk in on you like that. Next time, knock." I laughed nervously, but as his lips curled into a smile, something shifted in the air around us. The laughter faded, replaced by an unspoken tension that felt foreign yet thrilling. We stood there, the moment stretching, and before I even realized what was happening, he stepped closer. "Mia," he whispered, as if testing the waters. "Jake, what are you?" But it was too late. He leaned in, and his lips pressed against mine, sending shockwaves through my body. It was brief, electrifying, and utterly confusing. I pulled back, breathless, my mind racing as I processed what had just happened. "What was that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. I don't know," he stammered, his expression a mixture of shock and something deeper, something I couldn't quite place. The air around us crackled with intensity, but the weight of what had just occurred sank in. I felt the walls closing in, my heart torn between confusion and something I was afraid to name. I stumbled back, my heart racing, the taste of Jake's kiss still lingering on my lips. "What just happened?" I gasped, my voice barely above a whisper. Shock coursed through me, mixing with confusion, and a flutter of something deeper. I could feel the heat radiating from his body, and it made me feel both alive and terrified. Jake ran a hand through his hair, his eyes wide and filled with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. Mia, I don't know. That was a mistake, he stammered, backing away as if he could erase the moment by distancing himself from me. His words cut like a knife, and I felt a pang of frustration bubble up inside. A mistake? I echoed, incredulous. You think that was just a mistake? I struggled to catch my breath, the weight of his rejection heavy in the air. You kiss me, Jake. You can't just pretend it didn't happen. He sighed, his brow furrowing as he looked away from me, his expression a mix of guilt and something else, something unspoken that hung between us like a thick fog. I didn't mean to. It just happened. You were there, and you what? I interrupted, my voice rising. You just acted on impulse? You didn't think about what that would mean for us. I know, okay? He snapped, frustration flashing in his eyes. I know it's complicated, but we're siblings, Mia. This isn't supposed to happen. It's wrong. My heart sank at his words. Is it really wrong? I challenged, my voice softer now, almost pleading. What if there's something more than just being siblings? What if we felt it for a while now, but just didn't want to admit it? Jake looked at me, his expression torn. I could see the conflict playing out in his eyes, the battle between what he felt and what he believed we should feel. I don't want to ruin what we have, he finally said, his voice low. I love you, but not like that. I can't. Each word struck me like a blow, and I turned away, trying to mask the hurt that threatened to spill over. I felt so exposed, so vulnerable, and I hated that he could see right through me. You think I want to ruin things too? I can't help how I feel. Jake, you kissed me and it felt right for a moment. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. Silence hung between us, thick and suffocating. I could hear the clock ticking in the background, each tick amplifying the tension that filled the room. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him understand that I wasn't just some sister to him. I was someone who craved his closeness, his affection, even if it was buried beneath layers of familial bonds. Maybe we need some space, he finally said, his tone softer but resolute. Just to think, to figure this out. Space. I repeated, incredulous. You think that's going to help? You can't just act like it never happened. I don't want to ignore it. I want to talk about it. But deep down, I knew he was right. We needed to clear our heads, but the idea of spending days or even weeks apart pretending like everything was normal felt unbearable. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do anything to make this feeling go away. Instead, I nodded, my heart sinking further. Fine. Space. As I turned to leave, I felt his hand on my shoulder, spinning me back around. Mia, please, I care about you. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know either, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. But we can't keep acting like everything is fine. It's not. With that, I walked away, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air, and a part of me wished I could take back that kiss, while another part, a part one was still too scared to acknowledge, wanted to hold on to it forever. I headed to my room, the confusion swirling inside me like a tempest, and I realized that nothing would ever feel the same again. As the days passed, I found myself gravitating toward Jake more than I ever intended. We spent hours on the porch, our laughter echoing into the twilight as we shared stories and memories from our childhood. I wanted to believe that the kiss we shared was just a momentary lapse, but with each passing day, it felt more like a connection we couldn't ignore. The warmth of his presence wrapped around me like a blanket, blurring the lines we both feared to cross. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sky, I turned to Jake. Do you remember that tree we used to climb? The one in the backyard? I asked, nostalgia flooding my voice. He chuckled, a genuine sound that made my heart flutter. Yeah, you always insisted you were the better climber, but we both know I was the one who got up there first every time. He teased, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Only because you were taller. I shot back, playfully nudging him with my shoulder. But beneath the laughter, a tension lingered. One that reminded us of the kiss we were both trying to forget, but couldn't. Later that week, I was on my way home from class when I saw Jake sitting on the porch with a girl I didn't recognize. My heart sank as I approached. She was beautiful, with long, flowing hair, and an easy laugh that seemed to come too readily for my liking. I forced a smile, trying to mask the jealousy that curled in my stomach. Hey, Mia. This is Emily, Jake introduced, his voice warm and inviting. We were just talking about old movies. You know, the classics. Nice to meet you, I said, trying to maintain my composure. But the way Jake looked at her, the way he leaned in closer, sent a jolt of betrayal through me. I could feel the walls closing in as I fought to keep my emotions in check. Jake was just saying how much he loves Casablanca, Emily said, her eyes twinkling with delight. I'm a huge fan, too. Yeah, it's a classic for a reason, I replied, my voice tighter than I intended. I prefer Gone with the Wind, though. Scarlett O'Hara is such a complex character. Scarlett is definitely iconic, Emily agreed, but my heart wasn't in the conversation anymore. I wanted to scream that Jake, and I had something special, something that didn't involve her. But instead, I smiled and nodded, trying to pretend I was happy for him. Once Emily left, the air between Jake and me crackled with unspoken words. I couldn't hold it in any longer. So you and Emily. Huh? I asked, my voice low but steady. Jake rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous habit I recognized well. It's not serious, Mia. We're just hanging out. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything? I echoed, my heart racing with frustration. It sure looked like it meant something to you. I crossed my arms defensively, hoping to shield myself from the hurt creeping in. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't want to hurt you, Mia, but I can't just ignore the fact that she's interested in me. But what about us? I challenged, my voice rising slightly. What about the kiss? What about everything we've shared? Jake stepped closer, his expression conflicted. I don't know, Mia. I thought we were just trying to figure things out. I didn't expect to start dating anyone, especially not after, well, everything. Then why her? I shot back, feeling the heat of betrayal wash over me. Why not talk to me about it? I didn't want to hurt you, he said softly, his gaze dropping to the ground. But maybe I already have. Silence enveloped us, thick and heavy. I could feel the tears pricking in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I need some space, I finally murmured, my heart aching as I turned away. I can't deal with this right now. As I walked away, I could feel Jake's eyes on me, and I hated that I felt like I was losing him to someone else. The jealousy festered, and I threw myself into my studies and time with Sarah, trying to distract myself from the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume me. But the truth was, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that something precious was slipping through my fingers. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden hue through the window of our living room. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but warm. I could hear the muffled voices of Jake and Emily coming from the next room, their argument escalating like a storm brewing outside. My heart raced as I strained to catch snippets of their conversation, each word sending a jolt of anxiety through me. I'm tired of you holding back, Jake. It's like you're here, but you're not really here. Emily's voice pierced through the walls, sharp and accusing. I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. Was I the reason for this tension? My mind raced back to the moments Jake and I shared, the kisses we exchanged that felt like a betrayal. I couldn't help but wonder if I should be worried about Emily, or if I should be worried about myself. As I paced the floor, I heard Jake's voice, strained and defensive. It's not like that, Emily. I care about you, but you're not in this with me. It's like you're waiting for something else, she shot back. Her words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt the need to intervene, to confront Jake about everything that had happened between us. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that awaited. I had to know where Jake stood, not just with Emily, but with me. I pushed the door open and stepped into the charged atmosphere of the room. Jake turned at the sound, surprise flickering across his face. Emily's gaze snapped to me, her expression a mix of relief and irritation. Mia, this isn't a good time, she said, but I couldn't hold back any longer. No, it's exactly the right time, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I need to talk to you, Jake. Emily's eyes darted between us, and I could sense the tension thickening. You two need to figure this out. I can't be part of your mess, she said, her voice trembling with anger. Wait, Emily, Jake said, his tone pleading. Let me handle this. I shook my head, feeling a surge of frustration. No, Jake, we need to talk about what's happening. About us. Us. Emily practically spat the word, her eyes narrowing. What is there to talk about? It's clear you two have been keeping secrets. Emily, it's not what you think, Jake began, but I cut him off. It's exactly what she thinks, I exclaimed, my heart pounding. I kissed him, and I can't pretend it didn't happen. But what does it mean? Do you really care about her? Jake's silence was deafening, and I felt my chest tighten. You were the one who said you didn't know how to feel about me, Jake. Is that still true? He looked at me, and for a moment, the world around us faded. It's complicated, Mia. I do care about Emily, but it's different with you. Different how? I pressed, my heart racing. Because with you, it feels real, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the way he was torn between loyalty and desire. Then why are you still with her? I asked, my voice quivering with emotion. I don't know, he snapped, frustration evident in his tone. I didn't plan for any of this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you. Hurt me? I echoed, disbelief flooding my voice. You're hurting me now by lying to both of us. Emily crossed her arms, her expression one of disbelief. This is ridiculous. You both need to make a decision. You can't keep playing with people's feelings. I'm not playing, Jake said, his voice rising. I'm just trying to figure out what I want. Then figure it out. I shouted, tears brimming in my eyes. I can't keep doing this. In a moment of desperation, I stepped toward Jake, my heart racing as I grabbed his shirt and pulled him down to me. I kissed him, hard and desperate, the electricity between us surging like a live wire. This time, he responded without hesitation, his hands finding my waist, pulling me closer. We both knew we were crossing a line, but in that moment, the chemistry was undeniable, the passion overwhelming. I could feel Emily's presence like a shadow behind us, but all I could focus on was Jake. As we pulled away, breathless and wide-eyed, I realized the consequences of our actions were looming over us like a storm cloud, ready to unleash chaos. We were tangled in an embrace, hearts racing, and for a fleeting moment, everything felt right, even though we both knew it was anything but. But in the back of my mind, I wondered, how long could we keep this up before the truth came crashing down around us? The weeks flew by, blending into a whirlwind of stolen moments and whispered secrets. I found myself lost in a world where the boundaries of right and wrong blurred into a hazy gray. Each time I met Jake, my heart raced with a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. Our secret relationship felt intoxicating, but guilt nipped at my heels like a cold wind. Tonight, Sarah and I were out at our favorite diner, the neon lights casting a soft glow over our booth. The familiar sounds of clattering dishes and laughter surrounded us, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was living a lie. "Hey, Earth to Mia," Sarah teased, snapping her fingers in front of my face. "You've been awfully quiet tonight. What's going on in that head of yours?" I hesitated, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. "It's just, I ran into Emily the other day," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Her eyebrows shot up. "Emily? As in Jake's Emily? What happened?" I sighed, feeling the weight of my betrayal pressing down on me. She seemed happy. It made me feel terrible, like I don't know, stealing something from her. Sarah leaned in closer, her expression turning serious. "Mia, you're not stealing anything. Jake's feelings are his own, and you can't control how he feels. But you need to be careful. Secrets have a way of coming out." "Yeah, I know," I replied, stirring my milkshake absent-mindedly. "It just feels wrong. I can't keep doing this to her, to myself." Just then, the diner door swung open, and my heart sank as I spotted Emily entering with a group of friends. She was laughing, her hair catching the light like spun gold. I felt a pang of guilt twist in my stomach. Sarah noticed my reaction and squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Just breathe," she said softly. I watched as Emily and her friends settled into a booth across the room. I couldn't help but steal glances, my mind racing with thoughts of Jake. Did he even think about her? Or was I the only one who felt this weight? "Hey, don't dwell on it," Sarah urged, sensing my internal struggle. "Let's just have a good time tonight. We can't let her ruin our evening." I nodded, forcing a smile, but the image of Emily's laughter haunted me. As the night wore on, I tried to shake off the feeling, but the guilt lingered like a shadow. Later that week, Jake and I met at our usual spot, a secluded park bench hidden by overgrown bushes. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow around us, but the atmosphere felt tense. I could sense something was off with him. "Hey," I said quietly, trying to ease the weight in the air. "What's wrong?" Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Emily's been acting strange lately. She thinks I'm distant." My heart dropped. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," he admitted, frustration lacing his voice. "I don't want to hurt her, but I can't stop thinking about you." I felt a mix of relief and dread. "What are we doing, Jake? This feels wrong. She deserves to know the truth." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "I care about both of you, but it's complicated. I can't just come out and say it without ruining everything." I shook my head, feeling the blood rush to my ears. "But lying is just going to make it worse. If she suspects something, it'll blow up in our faces." "Maybe I can just talk to her," Jake suggested hesitantly. "I'll figure out a way to make it right." I bit my lip, torn between wanting him to be honest with Emily and fearing the fallout that honesty would bring. "Just be careful, okay? I don't want anyone to get hurt." He reached out, taking my hand in his. "I promise I'll handle it. Just trust me." For a moment, the world faded away, and it was just us, two people lost in a complicated web of emotions. But deep down, I felt the walls closing in, and I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. As I sat on the edge of my bed, my heart raced with anxiety. The weight of my secret relationship with Jake felt heavier than ever, especially after Sarah's careless words had slipped out during lunch. I couldn't believe she had mentioned seeing Jake and me together. The thought of Emily finding out sent chills down my spine. My phone buzzed beside me, and I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Jake. "Can we talk?" It read. I stared at the words, my mind swirling with dread. What if Emily had already confronted him? I quickly typed back. Where? The park, near the old oak tree. I took a deep breath and made my way to the park, each step feeling heavier than the last. As I approached the tree, I saw Jake pacing nervously. His usual confident demeanor was gone, replaced by a palpable tension. Mia, he said, his voice low and strained as I approached. We need to talk. Is it about Emily? I asked, my heart pounding in anticipation. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his movements. Yeah, she found out about us. My stomach dropped. What did you tell her? I panicked, he admitted, his eyes darting away from mine. I told her I had feelings for you. I felt a mixture of relief and guilt wash over me. And what did she say? She was devastated. She said she couldn't believe I'd betray her like that. His voice cracked slightly, and I could see the turmoil in his eyes. But I couldn't lie to her. I can't pretend what we have doesn't exist. Jake, this is a mess, I said, burying my face in my hands. What have we done? I don't know, he replied, stepping closer to me. But I can't let her think I'm with her when I'm not. I care too much about both of you to keep lying. Just then, we heard footsteps approaching. I turned to see Emily coming toward us, her face a mixture of anger and betrayal. So, this is where you've been hiding? She spat, her voice sharp. Emily, wait. Jake started, but she cut him off. Don't you dare, Emily, wait me. You've been lying to me this whole time. She turned to me, her gaze piercing. And you? I can't believe you would do this to me, Mia. After everything we've been through. Emily, Save it, she shouted, tears brimming in her eyes. You think this is some kind of twisted game? I can't believe I ever trusted you. Jake stepped between us, his expression desperate. Emily, please. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't want to hurt you. Too late for that. She shot back, her voice trembling with rage. You think I'm just going to let you both walk away from this unscathed? You have no idea what I'm capable of. I felt my heart drop. The intensity of her words sent a shiver down my spine. Emily, please. I never meant for this to happen, I said, my voice shaking. Don't act like the victim here, Mia. You knew how I felt about him. And you went behind my back. Jake's jaw tightened. You're right. I should have told you sooner, but I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could handle it. You thought wrong, Emily replied, her eyes flashing with fury. You both have no idea what's coming for you. With that, she turned on her heel and stormed away, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. I felt the air grow thick with tension, and I turned to Jake, my heart racing. What do we do now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked down, his expression torn. We have to face the consequences, Mia. But I can't lose you. Not after everything. My chest tightened with conflicting emotions. I wanted to believe that we could make it through this, but with Emily's final words echoing in my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in over our heads. Jake, I said slowly, what if she really does try to hurt us? We can't just ignore that. I don't know, he admitted, his voice heavy with uncertainty. But we have to stick together. We can't let her win. As the sun began to set behind the trees, casting long shadows across the park, I felt a chill in the air. The future felt uncertain, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come.